Hey, welcome back guys. I've had a few messages asking when I'll be doing some more Subaru stuff, so I thought I'd better give you a bit of an update, and we're going to do some work on this GC8 which we've already done a part 1 on. I started with the buying guide on the video a few weeks ago, so I'm going to carry on and just show you a couple of bits on this GC8. I'm going to get underneath in a minute. Like I said on the last video, on the GC8s in the UK, rust is their enemy, and that's the major thing you've got to look out for. Everything else pretty much can be sorted out mechanically, engines can be rebuilt, gearboxes and things. Rust is a big one. I know it can be repaired, welded and things like that, but I've never been a fan of welding things up. I think if you've got a good solid base, you want to keep it that way. You don't want to start welding. So I'm going to get underneath the car and show you a couple of hot spots where they go and things to look out for if you're in the market for buying one, or if you've got one. You know, you can get in front and treat it before it starts to get too bad. But just before we get underneath the car, I'm going to show you a couple of other things which are common on Imprezas for going and worth looking out for if you're going to buy one, or you're yeah. Right, brakes. The later cars, we're talking sort of 1999 onwards in the UK, come with these 4-pot front calipers, 4-piston calipers, which basically anybody that's got a bit of mechanical know-how will know it means basically you've got these 4 pistons that operate the caliper. You know, they squeeze on the brake pad, so you've got 2 on the front, 2 on the rear. Now these 4-pot brakes are prone for seizing up. Now this car, you can see it's quite stiff there, is actually suffering from that problem. So that's going to be one of the jobs we've got to do, is take those off, strip them down and recondition them. Now the easiest way to tell if you've got problems with the brakes or they're starting to bind and the pistons are not free is take the car for a run, you know, a good 5-10 minute run, and have a good feel of the steering wheel. Is it, as you brake, is it starting to snatch out of your hand? Is it pulling slightly? And another good way is once you stop the vehicle, get out and just check for any excess heat from the actual brake disc area. If it feels really hot, if the spokes of the wheel are hot, or certainly too hot to touch, you've definitely got a brake binding issue, which means the calipers are going to want looking at. Other things to look out for, really, there isn't much. There's the engine, which can be problematic if it's not been serviced correctly or if it's had a hard life, and that is the famous knock knock noise that you're going to get, which if you go on any of the Subaru forums, or if you know anybody with any Subaru know-how, they will tell you how to spot that quite easy. I can't show you on this car because we're inside and I haven't got good enough ventilation to keep it running. I will show you in a different video. I'll show you on the STI what I do to look out for the knocking noise. I have a specific way where I look out in a very low rev range, and even if it's very early, starting to fail, you can spot it. So I'll put that in another video for you. Right, what else is there to look at with Subarus? Clutch, just like any other car, if the biting point's very high, or at the top of the rev range when the boost comes in, if it starts to slip and you see the rev needle start to flick upwards, that's a sign of a slipping clutch. You know, that can be a bit of a costly job. Other than that, you know, they're pretty robust cars. You know, it's why we love them. You know, I've got a real passion for Subaru Imprezas. Electrics on the inside, fantastic. It's old school 12-volt system, no CAN bus. You know, they're not prone to failing. I've had some of these 25 years old. Electric windows work fine on them. Electric mirrors work fine on them. The heaters work fine on them. There's not really much to go wrong on the inside, you know, electrically. They're pretty basically put together, and they do what they say on the tin. You know, it's a road-going rally car, all said and done. Catalytic converter, that's one to watch out for. A lot of these, when they were really popular, had the exhaust systems upgraded, the catalytic converters removed, big exhaust pipes put on, which meant the catalytic converters are missing. And now with the MOT rules tightening, that can be a bit of a problem, because the catalytic converters for these are very, very hard to get hold of here in England. I mean, I've just had to pay £400 for a second-hand unit, and I believe I've been told that that was cheap, so that gives you an idea of how difficult they are to get hold of. Right, I guess I better get underneath the car. Okay guys, as I've said previously, the Subaru Impreza, especially these early models, the Achilles heel really is the rust, you know. Other than that, they're pretty robust and bomb-proof, and everything is serviceable. Rust is a major issue because not only is it expensive and an arduous job, you know, it's a pain in the backside, and for me it detracts from the originality of a vehicle once they've been cut and welded up and things. So if you can get an original one, it really does count for a lot. Now you can see on this car, although this is one of the better ones that we've had in a long time, you can just see areas which are just starting to go. So you've just got like here, like a little bit of flaking. I mean, this really is nothing, you know, for a 2000 model car. You've got to bear in mind this is 21 years old, lived in the UK all its life. Now if you are buying them, or if you're buying one, this is the areas to check. If you look at the sills, it's very difficult to spot with these plastic covers on, you know, about any corrosion. But if you look around the back of the sills, you can generally get an idea of how clean the seams are as to what kind of corrosion is behind there. And again, the only place you can get access to have a quick look is these jacking point covers, and you can see how strong the car is or weak there. That'll give you an indication of what the sills are like. Again, on the front, these box sections here have a tendency to be jacked up by people, which is not the correct place to jack them up, and they tend to bend inwards, which can make you know, it can give rust somewhere to get started and rot those away. So those are the areas to check on the front. Again, ideally you want to get one up on the ramp if you can, to have a proper look. Now again, this car is really good, you know. I'm surprised at how clean this car is. You know, it's one of the nicest ones we've had in a long while now. Again, the sills are really nice on this. I mean, this is, again, I've said this in the last video, it's a testament to keeping these indoors garaged, because it's been out of the damp weather, and I think that is really what saved it. Another thing worth checking is up there you've got the brake pipes, which run inboard on Subarus, certainly on the Impreza model. They run on the inside of the sills, so if you get one that's failed and these have started to corrode, it can be a bit of a big job. You've got to take all the interior out to get to them and swap them over. Again, this is pretty good, you know. We've got a little bit of furring up on these these fitting heads, but that's not something of concern. I think we can treat that now and capture it. The brake pipes themselves look in pretty good condition. Let's get further underneath, see what we can see. I mean, this is a real problem for these suspension components. Rust pretty easily and frequently, so you get like the corrosion on the anti-roll bars on these diff carriers. I think we've got to make a decision with this car. We were planning on taking all these off and refurbing them, recondition them, you know, and bring them up to a good standard. But I think we might just leave this as its original. I don't know. Okay, so if we take a look up there, I've got some light shining on the area, and we can just see that is pretty good. You know, we've got a little bit of a blister just starting on the back side of that suspension turret, which is absolutely nothing. You know, we will sand that back and we'll treat that now and catch it in its tracks. I'm going to score that a healthy 9 out of 10, because believe me, the amount of these I've seen recently, and they have literally pushed through there, there's nothing there, and it's a major structural area. You get an MOT fail for that, and you've got a world of pain. So we're just under the front wheel arch on the near side, And I know it's not always easy to see because you have these plastic arch liners in, but this is another place worth looking at, because what you get is a build-up of dirt, as you can see with this car that's had some mud flaps on, and it just collects and it rots the bottoms of these wings away. So it's always worth having a good look around this area here to see if there's any kind of paint repair, or if there's any bubbling or blistering, which would indicate the bottom of the wing rusting away. Another thing worth mentioning, because it is surprising how many people don't know this, but a good example will have all its plastic wheel arch liners and protector guards still in. So you've got the two-piece one under the wheel arch, which you have one piece runs from here to there, and then you have another one that sort of runs under the bumper to the front of the bumper, and you actually have a plastic under tray, which I'll just capture for you there. Now, tons of these cars are missing these. I don't know why, whether, you know, early days in the servicing they were taken off and never put back on, or they were ripped off or whatever, but you know, we've come across loads and loads of these and they're missing, and it's surprising how many people don't realise that they actually should have one, and they don't. So it's always worth looking for. If you come across a car with all its plastic guards on, it's always a good sign. Okay, so we're wheel arches out on this car, guys, and I have to say I really am impressed. All the common areas where you would expect to find some corrosion starting, this car is really fantastic. I mean, especially down there, if you look down there, now I would have expected where you see that captive white screw retainer pushing through, you would expect to see the wing starting to rust around there. As you can see, it's all nice and dry. It's nice and dry and corrosion free, as is the front of the car. Behind the front bumper you have the front panel and that valance. Again, like I say, you know, the steel that these cars are made out of is extremely thin, and it's recycled, which is what makes them prone to rusting pretty quick. But this car is it's really quite clean, you know, and I'm happy about that. I just want to show you guys something. You can see the original plastic clip there that holds the front bumper to the wing, which indicates to me that this front bumper has never been off, which is the kind of thing that excites me, because it just shows how original this car is. Right, back end of the car, you can see these flanges are extremely thin metal here. These tend to rust quite easily if they've been exposed to road salt or anything like that. Again, behind the bumper you've got this valance. They rust. Now on this car I can just see, if you look up there, that is the bumper support bar, and it has started to corrode. Now I'm not concerned, because that's a serviceable part. You can change it, and we'll take the bumper off and we'll get that replaced, and stop any corrosion up there in its tracks. Really what we're looking at is the chassis of the car, any structural part. Again, up here on the chassis rails, I mean, that's beautiful. You can still see the spot welds up there, you know, the original spot welds. It's nice to see now. So while I've been raving on about how good this car is and what great shape it's in, it has sadly fallen foul of some of the more common issues under the bonnet, which I'll show you now. So when you are checking one of these out under the bonnet, other than the usual engine, internal engine failure noises, things to look out for, under the manifold on this car you can just see there the fuel pipes are starting to corrode. Now that's a bit of an involving job, because the inlet manifold has to come off, but it's important to check them, because if one of those starts to fail and leak fuel, you've got an underbonnet fire on your hands, and nobody wants one of them. Another thing, these early cars suffer with the steel header tank. You can just see this filler neck, this seam here. Over time you get a bit of rust, and that starts to weep and leak. So when you are checking one out, once it's running up to temperature, look for dampness around there, and also strong smell of coolant, because that'll indicate a little leak somewhere, and it more than often it will vaporize and steam off, so you can't physically see a leak, but you can smell it. So that's one thing. They're not too bad to do. It's a pretty easy job compared to the fuel pipes. Another thing, radiators on these Subarus, just like this car, they can look fine from the top and in good condition, but they have a naughty habit of rusting at the bottom. And you can just see on this car that here, it's rotten away at the bottom there. And that is because there's like a little bit of a tray, same as what you have on the top, but obviously on the underneath, it's like a tray that holds water, and it just lets it decay under there. I don't know if you can see any better from this side, but that's one to look out for. If you look directly down from the top between the slant panel and the radiator, usually you can see and get an idea of what shape the radiator's in. Same again, you will be very, very hard pushed to come across one of these that has got good exhaust heat shields. It's just one of those faux pas of Imprezas, unfortunately, that with the heat generated and any bit of damp, they just rust and rot away like this car has done. So that's another job for us to do when we've got everything in bits. Other than that, under the bonnet, it's there's not much to report. You know, like I say, usually you can tell straight away if it's had an aftermarket induction kit fitted, or like this car has had a dump valve fitted. We'll be getting rid of that and putting it back to standard. Things like that. Turbocharger's pretty easy to see. That's up here, and you can see if that's an aftermarket one or an upgraded one, or if it's just a standard one. This one looks to me like it is just the standard TD04, which this car comes from the factory with. So guys, that's a quick buyer's guide for the GC8 GF8 Imprezas. Stay tuned, we're going to be doing some more on this car. We're going to be doing some more videos of the strip down and the light restoration we're going to do on this and prepare it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.